So this is CA final audit, paper analysis. Right now I'm only covering descriptive part, where the level of difficulty is like, it's a mixed opinion among students, but I can say 7 out of 10. If the toughest, very tough paper is like extremely tough paper is 10, it's actually a 7 from my point of view. Like, it's a moderate paper, like above average paper. It's not extremely tough, it's not easy also, it's above average. And those whoever have followed our 3/4 preparation strategy can absolutely attain 100% out of this particular paper. The 3/4 strategy which we have given multiple times, and even these are the topics or what which we have covered even in the marathon, so they can definitely write 70 out of 70 marks for sure without any failure. Then further, most of these questions I specifically pointed out in the marathon class as well, in the revision class as well, like this is how it can be asked, this is how it can be asked, and the same pattern it was tested. The very first question, as usual, it's always discussing about quality controls. This is talking about what are the points the auditor has to consider while establishing monitoring policies and procedures. What points to be considered? What are the points to be included in monitoring, SQC related one? So if at all you are following my smart notes, if at all our students were there, it's there in our smart notes 409. Instead of page number, better SQC you go H point. So straight, that one is what which is tested. So, and here the second 1B is what bit challenging. Getting it? Like many of us don't pay attention when we are doing working capital this thing. Here the bank was given a working capital limit of 4.5 crore, which is a cash credit facility, and 2.5 crore, where another 2.5 crore, which is a letter of credit. Now, when we are checking working capital limit of 5 crore, do we consider only cash credit or do we also consider letter of credit? Cash credit is a funded facility. Letter of credit is a non-funded facility. Both we will consider, because you see in the Caro, they have not given anywhere specifically that only funded facilities must be considered. Bank advances are broadly classified into funded and non-funded. So if specifically they say funded, then only funded we will consider, but nothing such is given. As a whole, the bank has given how much sanction? 7 crore, which means clause number 2 is applicable. Inside that, subclause B is very much applicable. And here the company, what the company did in order to meet its some fund obligations, they inflated the stock statements that are filed with the bank. What the auditor has to do? The auditor has to report the same. So you need to first write the provision, give an analysis that both funded and non-funded will be considered in the working capital facilities. Since the total limit is more than 5 crore, so Caro clause number 2 is applicable. Accordingly, the auditor has to report what inflation the company did while filing with the banks. That's it. So 5 marks question, and this is something like 90% of the students, what I feel is they miss to write this point. Letter of credit is a non-funded facility and working cash credit is a funded facility. Both will be considered in the working capital limit. To best of my knowledge, 1 mark weightage or 2 marks weightage might be given for writing this point, funded and non-funded for this point. This funded and non-funded point we mainly discuss in bank audit chapter, but now the in-depth question tested on the Caro. I think this question, technically speaking, though you feel it's a Caro straight question, this funded non-funded point is something tough, which generally we don't expect. So when you are considering working capital limit, both at total facility the company has got from the bank, funded and non-funded, towards working capital, that should be considered. So that point might carry 1.5 to 2 marks weightage, or 1 mark at least weightage it will carry. I think rest of you would have wrote remaining all other answer correctly. So 5 out of 5, 4 you can damn sure will score, but 1 mark is doubtful. Next, in this is a straight question, SRE question. What are the preconditions for accepting a review engagement? What are the preconditions for accepting a review engagement? In our book, it is question number 6 and 7 put together. It's actually talking about preconditions, and it's a side question. I'm not discussing it, so there is no such thing. Now here, this is one question which many students again felt different. Like I spoke to 2 or 3 students, two students I spoke, like this is nothing. So here, no, you might have seen clause number 8, communicating with the previous auditor, part number 1, schedule number 1, clause number 8, where if at all you have to accept an appointment where there is a time bound, for example, government audits like that, you can accept the appointment after giving a reasonable notice of time to the prior auditor, previous auditor. If at all he didn't reply within the time bound, you can accept, you check all other formalities and you can communicate your acceptance to the, the government entity which has appointed you. So there is no guilty here. So that's the point which they are asking. Okay. So the appointment letter was here very simple. CAN, the partner communicated with previous auditor, but due to lack of time, he had to give acceptance for the audit before receiving the reply. Hence, CAN gave a conditional acceptance. Actually, you can give full acceptance also, not an issue also. That's not an issue, because there are judgments where it says you can give conditional acceptance or you can give full acceptance, whatever it is. That's it. So that is not a big deal. After giving reasonable period of time, you can accept it. Next. So the answer is not guilty. So clause number 8, part number 1, schedule 1 will not apply. Next. Coming to this one is straight under 610. What are the points to be included in documentation under internal audit standard? And here they said, the internal auditor, the stat auditor is using internal auditor as a direct assistance. Direct assistance, that particular team member, no, he is also documenting, right? That need not be documented is what they felt. That's wrong. So you need to write what are the points to be documented. Inside that one point, the audit documentation gathered by internal auditor providing direct assistance. So that point you should mention, and give an analysis that, so in the given case, one of the team member is contending that no need to include. This is wrong. This is not correct. Therefore, the team member contention is invalid. So the above documentation of internal audit providing direct assistance shall also forming part of the audit documentation. That's it. Conclusion. So it's a 5 out of 5 marks question. It's very easy. 610. Next up. This is a straight digital audit question. It's a straight digital audit question. So controls around the vendor setup and modification. Controls around vendor setup. In fact, vendor setup, vendor modification, purchases to procurements to payment. This is one example which we discuss at many places in our audit subject. So what are the controls? This is a straight digital audit question in our book, question number 13, part number 1. Next, 3A. So this is regarding unexpected question, but many of you would have at least paid least attention to it. In the institute book, there is a diagram in the ethics chapter. In the ethics chapter, there is a diagram, disciplinary mechanism, board of discipline, disciplinary committee, schedule 1 offense, schedule 2 offense, reprimanding member. That one is what which is tested. So it's very easy. Technically, this question is very easy. Remember, I'm only doing a brief paper analysis. I will do detailed analysis with suggested answers very soon. Okay. Next. Further, coming to MCQs part, I will again come up within some 2 or 3 days or maybe 4 or 5 days. I will come up with detailed answers on MCQs, all that. Getting it? So this is just a brief analysis so that you will have an idea whether you can immediately cross check whether you did really well or not. By the way, if any of you are planning to write for group 2, kindly you can ignore this and then just focus on the group 2 paper, because group 1 is over. So now focus on the group 2. Next, this is 600 point. What are the procedures to obtain? What are the procedures the principal auditor will do to ensure that work of other auditor is adequate for the purpose of audit? Nothing but principal audit procedures. Nothing but principal audit procedures. Inside that, this matter is covered. Next, explain what he will document with respect to subsidiaries audited by other auditors. What matters need to be documented if other auditor report is modified? It's nothing but report. Other auditor report is modified. Entire discussion is there in the 600 itself. This is like I can say little more than more than above average. I can say this is tough because this part is little difficult to comprehend. Next, this is investigation. Discuss how many ways frauds can be done through supply ledger straight question investigation. Okay, 701. Here, straight question is this: what would be the matters that are considered in determining matter requiring significant attention? So while selecting key audit matter, what points the auditor will consider? It's a very straight, simple question. So 3 points: significant risk, significant estimate involved, significant transaction, and not only that, they are asking introductory language. If those of you who followed our regular class or even our marathon, we have seen in a key audit matter discussion, introduction para in many audit reports, real audit reports, we took and saw introduction para. Even in our book, introductory language is given. As an illustration, we have given below the key audit matter itself. Next, this is regarding 805. In 805, actually the auditor is giving adverse opinion on complete set. But on a one particular element, separate element is there, PPE, on that he want to give unmodified opinion. Yes, he can do so. If this is a minor item, law and regulation does not prohibit getting it. So these are the points. Next, ESG straight question. This is: what is the role of auditor in audit of financial statements of the company regarding the ESG? It's last ESG chapter you take. It's somewhere in the last part. This question is given. Straight question. All are straight questions. SA 550. Many will forget to identify this. What points auditor shall consider on identification of previously undisclosed related party transaction? In the institute book as well, in the institute book, there's a diagram again, some third or fourth part is there. So that only. Even in our class, even in the marathon, I have clearly told this can be asked as a question. Almost every standard question is something. Those especially who are following a regular class, you know very well, like all these questions is something not at all new. We already predicted in our class. Next, 3000. This is nothing but what are the points auditor has to consider, what he need to consider when he is checking presentation and disclosure requirements in prospective financial statements. Question number 11, straight answer. 3000, you go to 3000, we have a question number 11, straight answer. Next, this is regarding ethics fundamental principles. I told you in the marathon, every attempt from the past three or four attempts, in every attempt they are asking fundamental principles. One point they're testing. Last time they tested confidentiality. Now they tested professional competence and due care. You just have to write professional competence. Professional competence includes what? Attaining it and maintaining it. Like that, some matter is that you have to write. Due care means what? That matter you have to write. That's it. It's a straight question. Fundamental principles where students pay least attention. And I told in the marathon ethics introduction itself, you can see. Next, this is regarding NBFC provisions computation. Now remember, this is systematically important NBFC. So 3 months logic only will apply for NBA classification. And provisioning, like how they have created a provision, they have given assets, substandard how much, standard how much, secured how much, unsecured how much, like doubtful how much, all that they have given. Getting it? So for standard asset, we all know 0.4%. Yes or no? So remaining are same for normal. Systematically important, non-systematically remaining, everything it is normal. That's it. So then 6B, this is regarding agreed upon procedures. 4400. What will you include in engagement letter? This is the question. What are the points that you will include in engagement letter while you are providing an agreed upon procedure? If you recollect in our regular class, especially our students, we discussed directly engagement letter of agreed upon procedure once. That's it. Then finally 6C, where we have some sub choice. So here, no, they are asking about clause number 2, part number 2, schedule 1. Like an employee of the company who is a CA. CFO is nothing but what? He is also an employee. He is receiving some commission from insurance company. An employee is prohibited, who is a CA is prohibited to receive kickbacks. So no, employee. So clause number 2. So accordingly it's treated as what? Guilty of professional misconduct. That's it. Okay. So this point, so he's actually guilty. Then finally this one, propriety audit related, what points you will verify in propriety audit. That's it. Straight, simple, neat paper, entire descriptive. Now coming to MCQs, I'm not going to explain the MCQs. We have been given NBFC bank audit, were given major focus on the MCQs. If you remember, my regular students, I told you very clearly that 1/4 the chapter covers 1/4 the category syllabus, like last priority chapters, bank audit, NBFC. I always tell you, listen to classes alone. No need to revise multiple times. Listen to classes alone carefully. You can answer MCQs. So that's what happened. So questions are, these MCQs have gone through. It's not that difficult. They're bit lengthy, bit lengthy. That's it. It's not tough. Again, even for MCQs also, my rating is going to be 7 out of 10. If you ask me what is the level of difficulty for MCQs, but for MCQs, an entire descriptive, detailed, answers, computations along will be done. All that will be done in few days. In few days, I will give you a detailed analysis. I just made this video to give you a confirmation on descriptive paper whether whatever the answers you wrote were like correct or not. To self-assess, I just made this video. I hope you've got the basic information regarding the questions which they are exactly testing. That's it. Take care. All the very best.